Welcome you back to BLACKSITE Sports, and we're going to talk about Celtics legend Cedric Maxwell talking about Ime Udoka coming back. We know that Cedric Maxwell is in the know in the Celtics organization. He does play-by-play games. He does after-show games. He would know what's truly going on in the organization. Right now, we're going to listen to his interview out of CBS Boston, and let's see what he has to say.
All this, but I guess let me start by asking you this. Ime Udoka, suspended for the season, for the year. Is that the correct punishment?
You know, I think the Celtics had to make a decision on what they were going to do, and I think they were immediate. Steve, you and I know that circumstances around the Me Too movement has changed. Mm-hmm. So if you're in that kind of situation with a subordinate and you're having an extramarital affair with her, there's going to be some consequences. So, Celtics made that choice and they made that decision.
How do you think Brad and Wick handled this thing? Watching their press conference, the way they handled the press conference, I thought they did an excellent job in the way they handled things.
Well, you can see Brad was highly upset, and we can think on like one hand where we've had Brad use some kind of a curse word,
right?
And he was upset. He was visibly upset because the internet had gone wild and accused a couple of people in the organization who weren't even involved. I think they tried to handle it as best they could, and you have to understand. People say, "Well, they didn't put any names and they didn't do this." Well, they couldn't, because there are some legal ramifications which are about this, which are going down and still in the process. And one of the things I think is happening right now, even with Ime, is they say, well, okay, he will reevaluate in a year if he'll come back. I think all the legalities out there right now, it might be one of these things where they just buy Ime out and continue on with, another coach.
Well, that's where I'm going with this next. Do you see him coming back here?
It's going to be tough. It's going to really be tough. I was excited about having him as a coach and what he did with these players. I loved it. But this is a different day and time. What I love for basketball and what I see happening in the world right now is completely different. So there's some mistrust. And can he gain that back with the organization? That was going to be a very tough road right now to hoe.
All right, so what about the coach that's taking over now, Joe Mazzulla?
Tough-minded kid, was involved, with Brad and coming over, doesn't have the experience. But I think if you look at people like Damon Stoudemire behind him, who has had coaching in the league, I think it's going to be more of a transition. They're not going to really change anything much. They have outstanding players, and they're young players. So I think that you're not going to make a lot of changes. So in the system, nothing really is going to change a lot, so he doesn't have to do too many things.
So let me ask you this. How does this affect Brown and Tatum when it comes to, you think about this, Ime Udoka pushed all the right buttons in the second half of the season, right? They got 2 wins away from the NBA championship. How does this affect the players now?
Well, it's going to affect them, in a way. I think that, again, there was mistrust. What I love the Celtics did, they sat down the players. They had an individual talk with all of them and told them what was about to happen. So there wasn't a surprise. I think in Brown and Tatum, they've grown over the years. Now Steve, this is what I say. There might be a silver lining in this thing. He's like, what's silver lining? Well, the silver lining is the fact that what would happen if this would happen in the middle of the season? Right now, they're starting fresh, new. And with the players they have on the floor, the organization, I think this team is a really good team. And I think they're championship driven.
So you still think that they can get to the NBA Finals with the team that they have now, even though they have a new coach that's taken over?
You added Brogdon to the mix. Gallinari hurts in the fact that he was going to be an outstanding shooter, going to help you in that range. But when you bring Brogdon in as another point guard, somebody who can facilitate and set the table, and he's a great defender, I like their chances. The East has gotten stronger, but the Celtics, again, have these two outstanding players in Tatum and Brown that they can depend on. One guy who was all NBA, another guy who was possibly all NBA, and Marcus Smart, one of the best defenders the Celtics have ever had.
This whole thing is over. Ime Udoka is not coming back. Basically, that's what Cedric Maxwell said. They're going to go with Joe Mazzulla, or they'll get another head coach because it's too much fire there. You don't want someone constantly talking about what happened in a Me Too era between a man and a woman. And basically, Ime Udoka will basically probably not get another NBA job. It, it would be extremely difficult for him because of the atmosphere out here today. They'll basically be going after him every day. He would have so many rules and regulations on him. He would be like he's almost captive as a coach. You know, he probably won't even be able to leave his room. So Boston will go in a whole different new direction, and hopefully they can be as successful as they was last year, which probably most likely will be unlikely because the snitch on the team is one of the starting players. So somebody didn't like Ime Udoka, and he got busted. I want to thank you for listening to BLACKSITE Sports. I hope you this channel smash that like button, but also share this video.